Three countries just hit the accelerator on the most advanced sixth-generation fighter jet ever attempted, and China is watching every move. Japan, the UK, and Italy have officially accelerated GCAP, the Global Combat Air Program, with a binding international treaty now signed and a 2035 delivery target as a legal commitment. When this aircraft enters service, it will be designed to make China's best stealth fighter, the J-20, look like a previous generation on day one. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know what GCAP brings to the table, what the acceleration means beyond the headlines, and why Beijing's military planners are treating this program as a serious threat. Let's rewind a bit, because GCAP didn't come out of nowhere suddenly. Back in 2022, the UK, Japan, and Italy merged two separate fighter programs into one, the UK's Tempest project and Japan's FX program. The logic was simple. Developing a next-generation fighter alone cost somewhere between $40 and $60 billion. Split across three advanced defense economies, that burden becomes manageable. More importantly, the combined industrial and technological base becomes genuinely formidable. Japan brings some of the most advanced composite materials and sensor technology in the world. The UK brings deep stealth and systems integration expertise going back to the Eurofighter and beyond. Italy brings Leonardo's cutting-edge avionics and electronic warfare capabilities. This isn't a coalition of convenience. These three countries were specifically chosen because their strengths don't overlap, they stack. The program is managed through GIGO, the GCAP International Government Organization, which was formally established in late 2024 through a treaty ratified in all three parliaments. That treaty is what triggered the acceleration. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The original timeline had GCAP entering service around 2035, but entering service is doing a lot of work in that sentence. What's changed recently isn't just the pace, it's the ambition. In early 2025, Japanese defense officials confirmed that a full-scale demonstrator aircraft would begin ground testing ahead of schedule. The UK's BAE Systems, the lead contractor, announced additional investment in digital twin infrastructure, being essentially a virtual replica of the aircraft used to compress years of physical testing into months. And Italy's Leonardo confirmed expanded production capacity at its Turin facilities. Put those three data points together, and you're looking at a program that's pulling the timeline to the left. Defense speak for going faster than planned. But why now? Why the urgency? Because China hasn't been standing still. The J-20 has been operational since 2017. And China's Chengdu Aircraft Corporation is already believed to be working on a J-36, a sixth-generation platform reportedly seen in taxi tests in late 2023. Chinese defense spending increased by 7.2% in 2024, and the PLAAF, China's Air Force, has been expanding not just in numbers, but in sophistication, with advanced AESA radars, long-range air-to-air missiles, and growing electronic warfare capacity. The window for Western air superiority is compressing, and GCAP is the answer, but only if it arrives on time. So what is being built? Let's talk about what GCAP is, because the headlines often skip the details that matter most. GCAP is being designed around what defense analysts call a system of systems concept. The aircraft itself, currently referred to as the core platform, is just one node in a much larger combat network. It will operate alongside autonomous loyal wingman drones, space-based assets, and ground-based command infrastructure. The pilot isn't just flying a jet, they're managing a battle space. That's a fundamental departure from fifth-generation thinking. The F-35, for all its capability, is still primarily a single aircraft executing a mission. GCAP is designed to be a quarterback. Now, the physical specifications. Based on confirmed statements from BAE Systems, JAXD, Japan's Acquisition Technology and Logistics Agency, and official UK Ministry of Defense briefings. Here's what we know. GCAP will be a twin-engine aircraft. That matters operationally because it provides the range and payload capacity that a single-engine design simply can't match. They're critical for Pacific distances where Japan would deploy it. The airframe will be built with advanced composite materials, providing a radar cross-section significantly lower than the F-35, which is already among the most stealthy aircraft ever built. The propulsion system is one of the most significant aspects of the entire program. Rolls-Royce is developing a new engine, internally called the EJ200 successor, with adaptive cycle technology. What that means in plain terms is an engine that can reconfigure itself mid-flight to optimize for fuel efficiency during cruise and raw power during combat. No production fighter engine currently does this. The F-35's F-135 has a modified version in development, but GCAP's engine is being built from the ground up with adaptive cycle as a core requirement, not an upgrade. Here's something the mainstream coverage usually glosses over: the avionics suite. GCAP will feature what's being called a digital backbone, an open architecture computing system that allows software updates to be pushed to the aircraft almost like updating an app. Right now, updating F-35 software is a multi-year, billion-dollar process. GCAP is being designed so that new sensors, new weapons, and new electronic warfare modes can be integrated rapidly. In a conflict environment where electronic warfare evolves week to week, that adaptability isn't a nice-to-have. It's potentially decisive. Italy's Leonardo is leading development of the Active Electronically Scanned Array Radar, the AESA system, which will reportedly operate across multiple frequency bands simultaneously. Multi-band AESA is significant because different frequencies penetrate different types of stealth coatings and atmospheric conditions differently. In other words, an aircraft that's hard to detect on one band may be more visible on another. GCAP's radar is designed to exploit that vulnerability in adversary aircraft. Think about what that means for the J-20 specifically. China's J-20 uses RAM, radar-absorbent material, optimized for specific frequency bands. That's been publicly acknowledged by Chinese defense analysts. A multi-band radar system changes the engagement geometry entirely. It's not that the J-20 suddenly becomes easy to detect. It's that the window of stealth advantage narrows considerably. And then there's the weapons integration. GCAP is being designed to carry a next-generation beyond visual range missile, a collaborative project between MBDA and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. Early specifications suggest a missile with a range exceeding 300 kilometers, active radar homing, and data link capability that allows mid-course guidance updates from off-board sensors. Longer range means the engagement begins before either pilot can see the other on radar. At that point, the stealth matters less than who has better situational awareness. And GCAP's sensor fusion system is designed specifically to win that competition. Now, here's where the acceleration story gets its full context. The treaty signed in late 2024 didn't just create a bureaucratic structure. It locked in cost-sharing commitments, intellectual property agreements, and crucially, work-share allocations that give each nation's defense industry a guaranteed role. That last point matters enormously for program stability. One of the reasons multinational defense programs die, and many do, is that domestic political pressure forces one partner to pull back funding, which collapses the work share, which causes another partner to recalculate, and suddenly you have a program in freefall. GCAP's treaty structure specifically prevents that. The work share is legally protected. The funding commitments are treaty-level obligations, not just budget line items that a future government can quietly cut. Japan's constitution was amended in 2022 to allow weapons exports, which removed a major legal barrier to joint development and production. That wasn't a coincidence. It was preparation for exactly this kind of program. Saudi Arabia has also been formally invited to join the program as a partner nation, a decision that, beyond the geopolitical implications, adds both funding and a guaranteed export customer. That's not irrelevant. Export orders reduce per unit cost for all three core partners. So, what does all of this mean for China? Let's be precise rather than dramatic about this. China's current air superiority strategy is built on two pillars. First, numerical mass, fielding large numbers of capable aircraft to overwhelm a technologically superior but smaller adversary force. Second, the anti-access/area denial doctrine. A2/AD uses long-range missiles, electronic warfare, and integrated air defense systems to push adversary air power back far enough that it can't operate effectively. GCAP is designed to threaten both pillars simultaneously. Start with the mass problem. The PLAAF currently operates over 1,500 combat aircraft. So the combined GCAP fleet across Japan, the UK, and Italy will never match that number, nor is it designed to. What changes the equation is the loyal wingman concept. If one GCAP aircraft can manage and coordinate a flight of 4 to 6 autonomous combat drones, each carrying weapons and sensors, the effective combat mass of that single crewed jet multiplies several times over. You're no longer counting aircraft, you're counting kill chains. And on that metric, on a smaller GCAP fleet starts to look a lot more competitive than the raw numbers suggest. But here's where it gets sharper. Those loyal wingman drones aren't just weapons carriers. They're expendable sensor platforms. They go into the most heavily defended airspace first, probing radar systems, absorbing surface-to-air missile shots, and feeding targeting data back to the GCAP aircraft sitting further back. The crewed jet stays out of the most lethal threat envelope while still controlling the battle. That directly undermines China's A2/AD investment. You've spent decades and hundreds of billions building integrated air defense networks designed to shoot down crewed aircraft. GCAP's operating concept is specifically structured to make that investment less decisive. Now let's talk about the electronic warfare dimension, because this is where the J-20 faces its most specific problem. And when China's stealth coding on the J-20 is optimized for specific radar frequency bands, primarily the X band, which is what most Western fire control radars use. That's been acknowledged in open-source Chinese defense analysis and by Western intelligence assessments. GCAP's multi-band AESA radar, being developed by Leonardo, is designed to operate across multiple frequency bands simultaneously. What that means in practice is that the J-20's stealth advantage, which is real and significant, becomes narrower, not eliminated, narrower. In a beyond visual range engagement, where the margin between detection and non-detection can decide who fires first, narrower matters enormously. And then there's the missile range asymmetry. China has invested heavily in long-range air-to-air missiles. The PL-15, with an estimated range exceeding 200 kilometers, is their current frontline weapon. And the GCAP integrated next-generation missile, being co-developed by MBDA and Mitsubishi, is being spec'd at ranges exceeding 300 kilometers with mid-course data link guidance. If those specifications hold, GCAP's pilot can engage before a J-20 pilot even knows they're being targeted. Stealth buys you time. Range buys you the first shot. GCAP is being built to win on both. Here's the timing point that ties all of this together. GCAP is expected to reach initial operating capability around 2035. China's presumed sixth-generation platform, what analysts are calling the J-36, based on imagery that emerged in late 2023, is unlikely to reach full operational deployment before the mid to late 2030s at the earliest, according to assessments from analysts at CSIS and other defense research institutions. That means GCAP doesn't need to beat China's current fighters. It needs to beat China's next one, and right now, it's ahead on the timeline. The acceleration, the moved-up demonstrator schedule, the digital twin compression, the legally binding treaty ratification is precisely calibrated to keep that lead intact. Every month shaved off the development timeline is a month Beijing can't use to close the gap. That's the real payoff here. Not that GCAP makes China's military irrelevant. It doesn't, and anyone telling you otherwise is oversimplifying. What the Senile GCAP does is ensure that when the 6th generation era of air combat actually arrives, the West isn't playing catch-up, it's setting the terms. And for Japan specifically, a country that shares a maritime boundary with Chinese air defense identification zones and has watched PLAAF incursions increase year over year, that isn't an abstract strategic benefit, it's a direct operational necessity. The window is open. The question has always been whether the program would move fast enough to fly through it. Right now, for the first time, the answer looks like yes. Here's the one thing I want you to take away from this. GCAP isn't just a defense procurement story, it's a story about whether democracies can coordinate fast enough to stay ahead of authoritarian state-directed industrial policy. China doesn't have to negotiate parliamentary ratification treaties or balance 3 sets of domestic defense industry interests. The fact that Japan, the UK, and Italy have done exactly that, and done it quickly, is arguably as significant as any single technical specification of the aircraft itself. If you want to go deeper on how loyal wingman technology works, or how China's J-36 compares on paper to what we know about GCAP, those videos are coming. Subscribe now so you don't miss them.